Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's Adam Zdroik. I'll be talking Champions League over the next 30 minutes. I'll be going over the lineups. We're going to get all of the lineups to release. We got 12 teams, 6 matches. We got a couple games going on right now. Antwerp are up 2-0 on Shakhtar, Atletico Madrid, and Feyenoord 2-2. Pretty exciting first half between them. But as you can see on the screen, we got Isak here. I got the Twitter screen up. I have, we actually got a lineup here. We got a couple lineups here. So I'll get those in just a second here. But on the left side of the screen, I got our Twitter list, RotoWire Soccer on Twitter. Follow that Twitter. You can get this Twitter list, has all the teams playing in Champions League if you want to check it out. We have all of our leagues. In the middle screen, we got the UEFA screen up. This is just UEFA.com. And I'll be clicking in there to find lineups. Usually the quickest place to find lineups because not all of these teams post their lineups on Twitter that fast. And then on the right side, we got our cheat sheet for the 6-game slate at DraftKings, rotowire.com/soccer trial. That's a free 48-hour trial to check out what RotoWire has to offer. But I was going to start with something else here, but we got lineups. So let's take a look here. And unsurprisingly, we have no changes. We have no changes for Newcastle. I think this is pretty much what they just used over the weekend. What do we got? Lascelles is in for Botman, who is injured. Of course, we got Trippier and Byrne at fullback, Bruno, Longstaff, Tonali, and then Almiron is on the right wing, and Gordon on the left wing. Isak is in the middle, and we have no Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson was one of the questions. He's dealt with a minor hamstring issue. He is not on the bench. So just looking at this bench real quick, there's not a ton because they have a bunch of injuries. Elliot Anderson will be an option to come off the bench. I know there have been reports that Sandro Tonali is not 100%. So Anderson on for Tonali, maybe something that happens, maybe Target on for Byrne, Hall, and Livramento, a couple new players that can play a couple different spots. And then Jacob Murphy would probably be a sub on for Almiron. That's Newcastle. They got a big matchup against PSG. Oh my gosh, we have Bernardo Silva is back in the starting 11. For Manchester City. That is a surprise. We have a surprise already in the second lineup I'm going over. What else do we got? Gvardiol going against his former side here. And I think that, we got a couple changes. Rico Lewis gets to start. We got an interesting lineup here for Manchester City. Kovacic is on the bench. Nunez is on the bench. Julian Alvarez is on the bench as well. That's going to change up a lot of stuff for DFS purposes. I was already going to fade him. It's unfortunate for me personally, but we got Doku on the bench as well. So basically we have Doku come on for Grealish. We have Sergio Gomez, Oscar Bob can come on for whoever. Kovacic coming on for Rico Lewis. John Stones is also back. He's been out all season, so he's on the bench. I would say Bernardo Silva is not 100%, so he's also probably someone that Julian Alvarez will come on for. So I'd say, all these guys could sub off realistically. Oscar Bob and Sergio Gomez could play for them. So we got a couple changes for Manchester City in a pretty big spot for them. So that's the big news here. And I was just going to go over in our cheat sheet. The odds keep kind of dropping here in Manchester City. You can see the 56% win percentage for Manchester City, 53% for Barcelona, which isn't that much higher than Red Star Belgrade, who are home against Young Boys. And I was looking at DraftKings for odds here. Man City -140, Barcelona -130. That's what those win percentages come out to. And then Belgrade are +100. So not massive favorites on this slate. And then you throw Rico Lewis in there, maybe he's changed some things up. So that is interesting there. Pep's Julian Alvarez has played a bunch here. We got a couple more coming out here. So let's look at Celtic. What do we got here? I think they got a couple changes here. Let me look what the projected one is. So Furuhashi's in there, Maeda's in there, Yang is in there. Did not have Yang. I'm not sure how much Yang has played this season. So something to keep an eye on there. Alistair Johnston's at right back. Nat Phillips is healthy. He came off the bench over the weekend in league play. He was injured, so they got a couple of their guys back. Nat Phillips, I believe he's on loan. I don't think he was bought by Celtic. I think he's on loan from Liverpool. If everyone remembers correctly, when Virgil van Dijk was injured maybe 2 years ago, Nathaniel Phillips played a bunch for Liverpool. He is starting at center back for Celtic. And then what do we got? O'Reilly's in there. Turnbull is out for Celtic, so he's on the bench. So that's the news for them. They're home against Lazio. Barcelona, what do we got here? Of course, Barcelona listed their formation by number, and we got to figure this out ourselves. But actually, we can actually click into UEFA here. It'll be a little easier for me personally as I'm looking at this lineup. Of course, they don't have the formation up right now anyway, but okay, what do we got? So Lewandowski is the number 9. We have Joao Felix and the 16-year-old, however old he is, 17-year-old. Lamine Yamal is in the front 3 with Felix, and then the midfield we have Romeu, Gundogan, and Gavi. And Cancelo and Alex Balde are playing fullback. So not too many surprises there. Maybe Yamal's getting another start. Maybe it's somewhat a surprise. Maybe not. But they do have, who am I missing? Ferran Torres is there coming off the bench. They don't have a huge bench at currently. Pedri is out right now with injury, and they have a bunch of kind of younger guys, a few defenders as well, who can come on. So that's Barcelona. We got Leipzig came out, Porto came out. So we got a bunch of stuff coming out here. So we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We got Porto here on the screen. Still don't have the formation out. Should be easier to talk about. Of course, Leipzig releases theirs by number. So that's another one that I'll wait to discuss here. Maybe we can get some formations out or not. Guess we won't. So what do we got here? I don't think there's any surprises. Openda starts up front. Let me pull up our cheat sheet. All right. So what do we got? I guess the question here is Poulsen starting? Poulsen is starting. So Poulsen and Openda up front. And I think this is pretty much what they just ran out over the weekend. Kind of a 4-4-2-ish lineup. Klosterman is in there. Seawald takes the place of takes the place of? Schlager's in there. Campbell's not in there. So Seawald takes the place of Campbell. David Rahm's in there. No massive changes here. Porto, what do we got? 4-2-3-1, I think we got here. So we got Mario and Wendell at fullbacks. Pepe, everyone's favorite, maybe 40-year-old former Real Madrid center back. He is out injured. So they got Carmo and Cardoso starting at center back. That's Porto. And then Eustachio and Varela are playing as defensive midfielders. And then I believe Romario plays forward. So this would be a 4-2-3-1. So that would be maybe Pepe in central role with Galeno and Mario on the wings. And then Taremi, the usual number 9, up front. Twitter is busy. We got another one here. We got AC Milan up. And what do we got? Everyone's favorite American, Christian Pulisic, gets the start with Musa. What a big lineup here. 4-3-3 formation for AC Milan. Calabria, Teo Hernandez on the wing at fullback, and then Musa, Reinders, and Pobega are central midfielders. Then Pulisic, Leao, and Olivier Giroud up front. Again, there's not a ton of surprises here. There wasn't many injuries that we had to go over. Big surprise, I guess, so far is Manchester City. Otherwise, I haven't seen too many massive changes. Let's click into this fun one. Red Star Belgrade against Young Boys. Okay, so we got they list. We had questions. Before I get going any further, make sure if you're looking for DFS information, check out Ryan Belangi and Jack Burkhart. They did a DFS preview video last night. That's up on our YouTube. The link is up on rotowire.com/soccer. Check that out. You can actually put that on 2 times and listen to it in the next 30 minutes. I know it's a 70-minute show, but you can get that done in about 35 minutes if you put that on 2 times. Get all that information. I also wrote an article for DraftKings. Check that out as well. It's up on the site. What do we got? Crasso is not starting. Is that what I'm seeing here? Crasso is not starting. I think that would be the big change here. I know Bukhari has played in a kind of like a 3-4-3 previously. So something to keep an eye on with this Red Star Belgrade formation. As for Young Boys, they have a 4-3-3. I don't think there's any changes here. Garcia's in, Ugrinic is in, and Itten and Ella have both been pretty much regulars. Mollis is in as well. So not too many changes, though. I think Crasso, unless he goes by a different name, Jean-Philippe Crasso, he's not in the starting 11. So that would make some changes for DFS purposes there. And let's look into another one. Let's see if anyone posted. We got looks like Murata scored again. Looks like we got a brace from Alvaro Murata. What else we got? Lazio. Here's Lazio's. I don't think I went over them yet, and there's no surprises from what I can tell here. 4-3-3, which is what the usual is. Alberto's in. There's a Cagni. Felipe Anderson is on the other wing, and then Immobile is up front. This has been a pretty. Matthias Vicino is in the middle there. Oh, and then former Bundesliga player Daichi Kamada is also in the midfield for him. An interesting match to look at. And here's Dortmund's. I don't think Füllkrug starts for Dortmund. I guess that was one of the iffy ones, I guess you could say, in terms of who was going to start up front for Dortmund. But I guess so Malin's in there as well, and Marco Reus and Julian Brandt. So this is probably a 4-2-3-1. If I had to guess, just looking at the players here, seems like a 4-2-3-1. Askin and Emre Can are defensive midfielders. So 4-2-3-1, I believe, for Borussia Dortmund. All right. What else? Let me read some comments here. I can't remember who I've actually not talked about yet. What do we got? PSG. If I talked about PSG yet, let's look into Newcastle here. And here we go. Mbappe. So Dembele is starting. What is this? Trying to decipher here. I think PSG are going 4-2-3-1, or I know they've gone 3-4-3 in recent games. This seems like a weird lineup. I think it seems like a 4-2-3-1 with Goncalo Ramos, with Muani, Kolomwani, with Dembele, with Mbappe. It's 4 attacking players there. I know Opta has a 4-3-3 listed, but I don't think they're going to put Dembele in this midfield role. We'll actually see what happens. And then, of course, Lucas Hernandez and Hakimi. I believe PSG actually tweet out what their formation is. So we're going to get that at some point here coming up in the next few minutes. And then there's Newcastle as expected. But that PSG one is a little different. So something to keep an eye on. That should be a pretty fun matchup. I've seen a bunch of PSG ultras are posting a bunch of pictures as they're in Newcastle for this match. I think I've gone over pretty much everything. Let me go over some comments here. Bernardo Silva, Rico Lewis season. Stevie P is saying John Stones is going to get on at some point. That Man City bench is ridiculous. City face Arsenal this weekend. Not sure who goes 90 besides Haaland. Dortmund have played Royce and Brandt in a midfield 3 previously this year, so that's possible. Our guy Ian Folletti is giving us the comment here. I'll call him our Bundesliga guy over at RotoWire. That PSG lineup is we want to score 6 goals. Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. Yeah, so I guess Dortmund could be in a 4-3-3 with Brandt in the midfield there. Let's see what UEFA still doesn't have that lineup yet, but I don't think it changes too much. It would just mean with Emre Can. Okay, I'm just getting caught up here. Emre Can, midfielders. Okay, so there we go. Let's refresh the cheat sheet. Let's see where we're at here. Let's see where we're at. Still need those in. Have a possible 4-2-3-1 for Borussia Dortmund. We got Füllkrug as this number 9 here. And no real changes for AC Milan as I'm just going over these again. Pulisic again, I think it's his 3rd straight start now after he didn't start in AC Milan's first. I think they played Newcastle in their opening match. And then Yamal gets to start for Barcelona. Maybe somewhat unexpected thing. He'll probably come off at some point for Ferran Torres. No real changes there for Porto. Again, Pepe is out. And then who did I miss here? This actually isn't confirmed. That's why. So we're waiting on some more confirmed lineups. 4-2-3-1 for Belgrade. This is an interesting match. We'll see if it's a 4-2-3-1. They also play 4-3-3. And so if that's the case, they did use 3 center backs against Manchester City, so they're changing something up a little bit, and then they'll have Crosso coming off the bench. As I said earlier, we got Bernardo Silva in here. Is he going to be the central in the middle here? Yeah, we're getting a question from Ali. Will Foden take most set pieces? Maybe. He'll probably split with Grealish. Grealish has taken set pieces this season, so it'll probably be Foden and Grealish splitting. Something weird always kind of happens with that. And then you also have the possibility of, okay, even if Foden plays 90, maybe Alvarez comes on for Silva at 45 or at 60 or something, and then he's taking every set piece in the second half. So just something to keep an eye on, or just keep in mind when building lineups. But I think, did I forget anyone? Did I forget any teams to talk about here? 12 teams to talk about. I think I've touched on all of these here. Not that they're all confirmed in our system. Let me just click into Dembele's profile to see if they've actually played 4-3-3s or with him in the midfield. They have not. So this seems like a different formation because I do not see Dembele playing in that midfield role. So they've been playing 4-3-3, and then they had a 3-4-3 in recent contests. But even then, where would Dembele play if it is a 3-4-3? We play on the wing. So I really think this has to be a 4-2-3-1 for PSG. Let's see if PSG tweeted out their formation yet. I'm not seeing it yet. Not seeing it yet. Just all this Alvaro Morata scored. So that's what we got there. What else did I miss earlier? Yeah, so there's a Yang Hyun Jun, South Korean, played 32 minutes off the bench. So not a ton of information on him, but he's getting the start over someone. Turnbull, I guess he's getting the start over Turnbull because that would move Rio Hetete back into the midfield. So it's interesting there. Another source I'm looking at says Opta PSG with a 4-4-2. Yeah, I mean, we had the issue. UEFA said Arsenal were playing in a 4-4-2 yesterday. Let me see. Here's 4-3-3. Opta saying 4-4-2. I mean, if this is a 4-4-2, like what would Mbappe is playing as a left-sided midfielder? I'm not sure he's ever played that role for PSG, so I highly doubt that. So I'm going to go over what we got, about 10 minutes left. I'll go over these matches, give my thoughts a little bit here, I will give my exact score predictions at the end here. I actually did pretty well on the off the cuff exact score predictions yesterday, and I somehow predicted the only clean sheet that there was going to be. All right, I don't really want to start this Newcastle PSG game, but so it's going to be. I think it's going to be a fun game. PSG are kind of going for it, but I think this is a pretty big matchup here for Newcastle home. This is their home debut again in Champions League. They're back. They didn't show much at AC Milan, but now that they're home, PSG has kind of been feasting on a Ligue 1 all season. And you can look at that and be like, okay, yeah, they've been playing really well, and I don't know. I mean, they couldn't score against Clermont over the weekend. Their only away win this season has been against Lyon, who has had massive issues this season. That was a 4-1 result. So, I mean, you could look at this PSG lineup and be like, oh, they put all these attackers on the pitch, so they're going to score 100 goals. Usually when that happens, that's not the case. It's usually like, okay, actually they have trouble possessing the ball and they're struggling to do a lot. But I think these matchups are going to be really interesting because Newcastle is a big team and they're not the fastest on the back line. So I think that's what PSG is going with here. They're trying to get Dembele, they're trying to get Mbappe on the wings, and they don't want Trippier to get up the pitch. So Trippier's got to deal with Mbappe, and then the other side, Dan Burn has to deal with Dembele, kind of a thing. And then you still got Kolo Muani and Gonçalo Ramos in there. So I do think the one thing that Newcastle has here, I think they have the advantage in the midfield. So can Newcastle win the midfield, and can they win the possession? And how many counter opportunities is Dembele is Mbappe going to get, and how far back are these Newcastle defenders going to be? Because if they get into, running battles against Mbappe and company, it's not going to end well. But I do think that Newcastle are favored for a reason. So I just wouldn't be like, okay, here's PSG. They have bigger names. They have Mbappe. They have some better players on their team. But I wouldn't go into this and be like, okay, yeah, PSG are going to win 3-1 because they're going super attacking. I'd say that's the incorrect way of looking at it. As he's saying, Dan Burn against Dembele. Yeah, you could look at it and be like, okay, well, Newcastle beating up on Sheffield United. They haven't seen these types of players in Dembele and Mbappe all season. You could look at it like that, and then you could look at PSG and be like, well, they haven't really had a matchup as difficult as this one all season either. So I think it's going to be pretty fascinating. Still unsure how I'm going to project that one. Borussia Dortmund, actually, a lot of these games are just extremely hard to project. They're all going to be pretty close, as you can see in the odds report here on our cheat sheet, rotowire.com/soccer trial. But this Borussia Dortmund one, so Borussia Dortmund started the season pretty bad. They've kind of rounded into better form lately. They lost in their first match 2-0 at PSG, where they didn't really have much going there for them. AC Milan's been playing pretty solid this season, but this is an away match. I feel like there could be nothing that happens in this game. AC Milan tend to play, a little more defensive, a little safer in these away matches. If this was on a neutral field, I'd give the advantage to AC Milan. And I'm not entirely sold on this Borussia Dortmund back line. So I do think, guys like Pulisic, Leao can have success in this spot, Olivier Giroud. And then other end of that, Dortmund are at home. So I do think they can score as well. Porto against Barcelona. Well, Porto, Porto made it to, I forgot I pulled the stat up earlier, but Porto had a lot of success in home matches last season. And they made it, I think their only time that they dropped points in Champions League last season was in they ended up losing to Inter Milan. They held Inter Milan scoreless in that home match. But if you look at all those games, they opened with, a couple bad losses. Then they came back around a little bit. And, Barcelona hasn't been in Champions League for a little bit. Last season, they weren't the best in Europa League, especially away from home. And now they don't have a massive bench right now. And I feel like that opening match against Antwerp, they kind of, maybe they kind of benefited a little bit to get their feet wet a little bit in that opening match against Antwerp there. So I do think this is going to be a difficult spot. I think Porto is going to be coming ready to play here, though they don't have their fearless leader in Pepe at center back. They got a couple of younger guys in Cardoso and Carmo. We got a listed graphic here. I thought they usually posted a picture of their formation, but I think we can read this formation off this tweet from PSG. So technically you could look at it like a 4-3-3 here, but I think this is a 4-2-3-1. I think it's got to be here. That would make the most sense. So this would mean, Kolo Muani is the attacking midfielder. Goncalo Ramos, I believe Kolo Muani did play in his attacking midfielder at Frankfurt last season. I think he played back with, Rafael Borré a couple times. I'll say a couple times. So I do think that this formation would make sense. So we have Dembele on the right side, Kolo Muani as a central attacking midfielder, Mbappe on the left side, Ramos as the number 9. I think that makes sense here. So that graphic kind of shows what I was originally thinking with PSG. So there's that. Celtic Lazio, another pretty difficult match to talk about here. Celtic kind of got blown out a bit last season in Champions League play, but they did play in a difficult group. They're only 2 points game against Shakhtar, who Shakhtar still down. They're down 2-1 against Antwerp right now. Not the best team. So this is an interesting match. From Lazio, if you look at them, they're near the bottom of the table in Serie A. They haven't really had a great start to the season. So I think this is one where, I initially was like, okay, Lazio, I think they're going to be the better team here. But again, Champions League home opener for Celtic. Lazio haven't been playing well. So I think this is going to be fairly even match. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams got a decent amount of opportunities. Red Star Belgrade against Young Boys, a pretty questionable match in terms of I haven't seen much of anything of either of these teams play, so I'm not going to give a massive thought here. But I did look at Red Star Belgrade. The last time they lost a match in a competitive, last time they lost a competitive match at home was against Monaco last September. I believe that's correct. Yes, I did this. I looked this up earlier. I'm trying to look it up again. But the last time Red Star Belgrade lost a competitive match at home was against Monaco last September. That was a 1-0 loss in Europa League. So you can take that information. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but again, home matchup going against Young Boys. Young Boys are they've been in UEFA competition in recent years. They took points from Manchester United a couple years ago in Champions League. Can't remember what they did or if they were even Europa last season or not. But so I think this will be an interesting matchup. I wonder, how defensive Young Boys will be, but you got to think that at home, Red Star, there's a reason that the third biggest favorite on this slate. I think they can get multiple goals here just because, this is a home game in Belgrade. Manchester City against Red Bull Leipzig here. So we got a couple changes. I think those are interesting changes. Go Lewis in this spot is an interesting move. And Leipzig have played well this season. Oh, I kind of, just bad talk Shakhtar a little bit, and they just scored another. So it's level. It's level in the Shakhtar Antwerp match there. But I do think you look at recent results. I think the last two times, I think they've played last season and the prior season in Champions League in group stages. I believe those two-way matches were 1-1. And then Manchester City in home games kind of came back and dominated a little bit. Better dart throw on Young Boys, Males or Montero? I don't really have an opinion here. Montero's in the front three. I believe Darian Males takes some set pieces, so you could look at it like that. But maybe Montero is, I guess he was a DMP last game. I don't really have a preference. I'd say if you're looking for goals, just go with the guy in the front three, which would be Montero. So there you go. Here are the goal odds. We got implied totals. Barcelona currently have the highest implied total. Let me refresh this, see if we get any updates in terms of odds. I went one too far here. So, all right, I'm just going to make our cheat sheet the biggest thing on our screen here. And I think that we got enough of all these other things. So let's get the cheat sheet, rotowire.com/soccer trial. So again, here are the odds. Barcelona have the highest implied goal total at 1.8, Manchester City 1.77, and as I was saying earlier, Red Star Belgrade are basically right there with them at 1.69. Very interesting, especially if you play at DraftKings. A lot of those players are really cheap. Newcastle, the next biggest favorite, but all of these are pretty even. These are all very even matches, all below 40% chance to win. Newcastle at home, Borussia Dortmund at home, Lazio at Celtic, and that is it. So let me read a couple more questions. How many goals do you think we'll see in the Leipzig City match? Yeah, let me go over my exact score predictions here. So let's do this. Manchester City, I'll go this way. So Newcastle, PSG. This one is really difficult. Given what we've seen from this PSG lineup. I'm not sure if that means goals or not. I'll say, I don't know if I want to say 2-2. I'll say 2-2. Actually, I'm going to go, a lot of people are talking up PSG a little bit. I've seen the PSG ultras on Twitter and, they're going big, but I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. I'm going with the Newcastle win. This is a big spot for them. I think it's a level up in competition for what PSG are used to playing. And Newcastle have been really good at home under Eddie Howe. So this is a pretty big spot for them. And I think they can control the midfield here. So I'm going Newcastle, even though, the players on the wings for PSG look very scary. Dortmund, Milan. I'm going to go a lot of 1-1s here just because there's a lot of, questionable matches here. 1-1 here. I don't think either side is, going to have a massive edge in Dortmund, Milan. So let's go 1-1 between them. Porto and Barcelona. I think this is another 1-1 spot. I'm not going to pick Barcelona to win. I think that we could have 2-1 Porto. I'm going to say the same thing about RB Leipzig. But I'll go 1-1 here, and I'm also going to go 1-1 in RB Leipzig against Manchester City. Everyone always says, okay, Pep Guardiola in these away group matches, they don't attack as much. They're usually a little more defensive. And then you throw in Rico Lewis in the midfield instead of like a Kovacic, instead of a Nunez, and you start to question some things a little bit. Bernardo Silva's back. How healthy is he? We'll see in terms of that. But this is a better RB Leipzig team than we've seen in prior seasons, at least I think in their midfield and in the attack. You could say, okay, their defense is worse because they don't have Gvardiol, but I do think RB Leipzig can deal with this matchup. I think it'll be pretty tight. I don't think it's going to be back and forth or crazy at all. I'll go with the under. I'll go with 1-1 in that game. Celtic, Lazio, another game where I'm not sure we're going to get a winner. I guess if I had to say, I'll go Lazio 2-1. Again, I'm going so many, close 1-1, 2-2 kind of things, but if I had to pick a side here, just given Celtics, struggles on an international scale in Champions League, I do think that Lazio just has better players, and maybe that's gonna win out for him here. So 2-1 Lazio. Red Star Belgrade. I'm kind of swayed by some of the recent home numbers for Belgrade, so I'm gonna go 3-1 Red Star Belgrade over Young Boys. There we go. So that's all I got here. I went more than 30 minutes. Unfortunate here, but thank you everyone for watching. To all the questions here, Man City to win the second half. Maybe. I don't, I'm not entirely sold on just because they're going to push means they're going to get a goal kind of thing. But thank you everyone for watching this. You can find me at RotoZdroik on Twitter. More importantly, follow RotoWire Soccer on Twitter. And we're going to have betting stuff for Premier League coming up. We're going to have DFS stuff coming up for Premier League. That'll be on our YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to like this video. Thanks for watching all this. And if you're playing DFS, make sure to watch the video. Make sure to listen to the podcast and read the article. Thanks everyone for commenting and following along here. It's been a fun couple days doing these release videos. So maybe I'll continue them when Champions League returns. Thank you, everyone, and rotowire.com/soccer trial.